News review of
News review.
News review.
News review. News review.
News review.
News review.
Welcome to the news review of 2025.
I could go and read your mind. Think about your dumb face all the time. Living in your glass house, I'm outside.
We don't expect you to remember what was making the headlines in January this year, or even June, or tell you what, even last week. So we've taken all the big stories of the year and wrapped them all up in a big bow for you to listen back to, all soundtracked to the year's biggest hits. I'm Siobhán Fletcher, and buckle in, come on a journey with me through the year's top stories. Here we go.
Ooh, bet you think that she's so cool. Kicking back on your couch, making eyes from across the room. Wait, I think I've been there too.
And Glenn Vinor, a very happy new year from all of us here at Manx Radio. And here's to 2025.
An annual tradition on the Isle of Man will see hundreds of people welcome in 2025 with a swim in the sea today. There are New Year's Day dips taking place across the island, all to raise money for charity. A special programme on Radio 4 today features a BBC continuity announcer who grew up here on the Isle of Man. Amanda Litherland from Onken returned to the island recently to record the piece marking the shipping forecast centenary year.
A head teachers' union is calling on the steam packet company to urgently reconsider its decision to impose a new mandatory adult-to-child ratio for group travel.
And this is a fascinating story. You may remember a few months ago we told you all about Mary Ramsey. She was abandoned in Ballure Glen near Ramsey at just 6 days old, nearly 80 years ago. Now her daughter, who is hoping to find out who her real grandparents were, now thinks she has a surname for her birth mother, and that's Corlett.
It's thought the Manxman's usual berth at Heysham won't be fixed until April. The link span was damaged in an incident last year, as Amy Griffiths reports.
Since the Manxman hit the berth back in August last year, the steam packet's been using a different link span. This means freight has to take a longer route to be loaded and unloaded, and foot passengers need to board and disembark via coaches.
Government has engaged specialist private contractors to help continue the clear-up from Storm Dara. Some Manx glens and plantations have been closed since the bad weather hit at the start of December. The Department for Environment, Food and Agriculture is continuing to tackle fallen trees at popular island spots, a number of which still remain closed.
The island's minimum wage could be increased this year to match the current living wage if Tynwald gives a proposed uplift the go-ahead next month, as Lewis Foster reports.
The living wage currently stands at £13.05. If approved, minimum wage would be increased in two stages, from £11.45 per hour, where it currently stands, to £12.25 from the 1st of April, and then up to £13.05 from the 1st of October.
The assisted dying bill has passed its final stage in the Legislative Council. Members voted 7-1 in favour of progressing the proposals, which would allow terminally ill Manx residents to request medical help to end their life.
Permission for the continuation of work on the new seawall in Douglas has been granted retrospectively, after its previous approval had lapsed. The £900,000 project will see a 4-foot-high flood defence run from the War Memorial on Harris Promenade to the Empress Hotel.
That's so true.
Hi, I'm Noel Young.
'Cause I'm too messy, and I'm just too damn clean. You know I'm impatient.
You're listening to Update here on Manx Radio. It's exactly 5:05. Well, as we've just heard, in the past quarter of an hour, it has been revealed that Isle of Man doctors will strike for the first time in the island's history. This comes in a media release to us from the British Medical Association. News editor Tessa Hawley is with me in the studio. So Tessa, what can you tell us?
So what we know at this point is that doctors are going to go on strike on the 22nd and 23rd of January. Now, the BMA says that's because Manx Care has failed to make an acceptable offer that gives doctors fairer pay like their mainland counterparts.
Manx Care says its priority is to reduce impact and harm to patients and service users during strike action by island doctors.
Right now, let's bring you up to speed with what has been by far the biggest story of the week, and I think it's fair to say the biggest story of the year so far. With the time at 9 minutes past 7, the Health Minister is insisting funding for the island's healthcare system is not at crisis point. It's as doctors prepare to strike next week for the first time in Manx history. But does this in itself show a deeper-rooted problem for government and its priorities? Claire Christian has been speaking to Amy Griffiths.
It's not at crisis point because if it was at crisis point, then we wouldn't be continuing. And we are continuing, and we will hopefully achieve what we're setting out to do. But the situation is, unfortunately, demand has increased, but we do need to have some honest conversations about healthcare.
Planned strike action by doctors on the Isle of Man due to start tomorrow has been called off. The industrial action has been deferred as Manx Care and the British Medical Association have agreed to a revised pay deal.
Claire Christian told Tynwald this week the pay increase will be facilitated without the cutting of services or going over budget. But former Health Minister Laurie Hooper told his replacement her answers didn't stack up.
The Minister hasn't really explained where the money is coming from, because this isn't just next year's budget, it's this year's budget as well, because it is a backdated pay offer. So somehow we've moved from a position where we're going to be £16 million overspent to now the Minister saying she's not going to come back to Tynwald and ask for more money because it can be dealt with within the existing budget. So which of these statements is accurate? Because the Minister is contradicting herself every time she opens her mouth.
Doctors on the Isle of Man have accepted a new pay offer, bringing an end to a lengthy dispute over pay. Sean Camper joins us now, and Sean, 91% of doctors who participated voted in favour.
Under the new terms, senior doctors will receive an 8% pay increase, backdated to the 1st of April 2023. For the 2024 to 25 period, they'll also receive an 8% increase, with 6% backdated to the 1st of April 2024, and the remaining 2% effective from the 1st of February 2025. In addition, resident doctors on the Isle of Man will see their base salaries aligned with those of their counterparts in NHS England, addressing a long-standing concern over pay disparity. The agreement follows extensive negotiations that saw the prospect of strike action raised before it was ultimately suspended at the last minute.
News review of 2025.
Gusts of 88 miles per hour have already been recorded in the south of the island. It's as Storm Éowyn brings violent storm winds across the Isle of Man, resulting in a red weather warning until 2 p.m. today. People are being urged to stay at home and only travel if it's absolutely necessary. Ronald's Way Met Office forecaster Stuart Davison says it's the first red warning since 2018.
Whether it's as bad as Dara, I'm not sure, but we'll see.
In Peel, Beth Espy says the heavy winds haven't hit yet.
Storm Dara was very obvious. I think everybody pretty much woke up at the same time, didn't they, in the middle of the night, because the rain was so heavy and the wind was so strong. I didn't notice that overnight here particularly. You can tell, though, now, since we've got into that red weather warning period from 7, it is a little bit stronger than it was, say, an hour ago, but it's certainly not... we're not feeling the effects perhaps as strongly as some parts of the island are.
Meanwhile, in Laxey, Simon Richardson reports.
This has definitely been a slow burner. High tide here passed about half an hour ago, which obviously is good news, particularly for us in this part of the island, as the prediction is that winds will increase in the hours to come.
And in the south, Chanel Suku says it's becoming lively.
I am at the door, and it really has increased from that Hospice 5 call that we had. I know Stuart at the Met Office said gusts of up to 79 and 88 miles per hour are recorded down here in Castletown. Well, I can say just living near the airport, it is really, really ferocious here. The cars are shaking, branches, I can see some debris.
There are a number of trees down on roads around the island. You can find the full list at manxradio.com. All schools on the island are remaining closed today. The Mountain Road is also closed and there are no buses running across the island until 2 p.m. The airport is shut until 4 p.m. and all steam packet sailings have been cancelled.
The major incident declared by government earlier today will remain in place despite the red weather warning for Storm Éowyn now moving to amber. There remains around 30 roads blocked by trees around the island. Bus services were due to get back underway now. However, the suspension has been extended with an update expected at 4 o'clock. Government says it will review the major incident status at 3, but in the meantime, the request to stay at home and only travel if absolutely necessary will continue. This is to help emergency services and response teams prioritise the clearing of trees, power lines and significant debris. Infrastructure Minister Dr Michelle Haywood has thanked people for heeding that advice.
This is a bit different situation to Storm Dara because when that hit, it was across the weekend and we know volumes of traffic on the roads are much lower. But actually people staying home and staying out of harm's way means that we can allow those teams to get on with clearing the roads and dealing with that. And of course we haven't had the risk then that we've got trees coming down onto vehicles, which is always my horror scenario, to be fair, in incidents like this.
Meanwhile, Ronaldsway Airport will be staying closed for the rest of the day. It's due to reopen tomorrow as normal. Wind gusts in excess of 90 miles per hour were recorded in Castletown this morning. Manx Radio's Christy DeHaven is in Peel.
There is various bits of debris over on the prom. You can see the sea spray crashing up over the castle. It's quite magnificent, actually. I'm going to have to get a video of that and I will post it on our pages for you as well. But yeah, Peel, certainly still very blowy. Not many people around, which is exactly what we want in what is now a major incident.
Winds are dying down, but motorists are being urged to drive with caution following the damage caused by Storm Éowyn today. Siobhán Fletcher reports.
During the red weather warning period between 7 a.m. and 2 p.m. today, over 100 police incidents were logged, and at some points more than 30 roads were closed or blocked at any one time. Winds of 81 miles per hour were recorded at the airport, the highest in 20 years, with 94 miles per hour recorded at Castletown Breakwater and 107 miles per hour recorded on Snaefell.
News Review 2025.
My name is Alex Warren. You got me kissing the ground, sanctuary.
They say the water's watered down, and this town's lost its faith. Our colours will fade eventually, so if our time is...
MHK say they are receiving worried messages from people on the island who are claiming medical treatment, including surgery, is being cancelled. In the House of Keys this week, Douglas East's Joni Farragher was due to ask the Health and Social Care Minister if elective surgeries were being reduced. However, the urgent question was left unanswered due to the absence of Minister Claire Christian.
And MHK has called on the Isle of Man government to come clean and tell the truth over cuts to healthcare services. Albury, Castletown and Malo's Tim Glover has questioned whether Manx Care and the Department of Health and Social Care think people are stupid. It follows reports of operations being cancelled on the island and hospitals in the UK reportedly refusing to treat non-emergency patients. Fellow backbencher and former Health and Social Care Minister Laurie Hooper says previous work in reducing waiting lists is at risk of being wasted.
I think it's criminal, actually, that the Council Minister started off with a long-term plan to help improve the health service and reduce waiting lists, and when the crunch time has come, they've turned around and gone, actually, no, we're not committed to that anymore. And they've almost pulled the rug out from under their own feet. They're starting to undo a lot of the good work that has been done.
As Manx Care faces allegations that it's cancelling or postponing appointments due to undeclared cuts, one parent says their child is being refused treatment at Alderhay. It follows claims from one medical professional at Nobles Hospital who wants to remain anonymous, who told Manx Radio that the health body has requested the Liverpool University hospitals stop treating Isle of Man patients except in an emergency until the end of the financial year. David O'Brien's 12-year-old son recently injured his leg and had been enrolled on a research scheme to determine the best course of treatment and care. Now, however, they've been told they can't attend.
My son's leg is currently in a back slab, so it's not a full cast, and his ankle is not secure, his shin bone is not secure. He's had the pins inserted, but he currently has an open wound on his leg. That's why Alderhay wanted to see him today, and to make sure this growth plate is healing how it should. We have to go to Nobles to see someone in the fracture clinic today, and there's nothing we can do. Manx Care are refusing to pay for a 12-year-old boy's treatment at Alderhay, and I'm so embarrassed to be Manx.
We need a health service that looks after everybody in society, and that's got to be our first and foremost objective.
Chief Minister Alfred Cannon there, reiterating government's stance that tough decisions need to be made to bring Manx Care's spending into line. It comes in the week further cuts to services have been revealed and further funding from Treasury secured. If you're a bit lost, don't worry, you're not alone. The timeline of events has been fairly unclear, particularly in relation to who knew what and when. But what is clear, at least for Manx Care Chief Executive Theresa Cope, is that the sign-off of additional cost-saving measures has taken longer than anticipated.
So Manx Care made the decision, as I say, at the start of January, but it is important that we get wider support and agreement, and there is a shared understanding across both Manx Care and DHSC and government as to what are the implications of these decisions. So in essence, it's taken longer than what we would have hoped to work that through and ultimately get full agreement and sign off on those plans.
Time has just gone at 7:30. As we say, lots of texts and emails from you today. Steve has been on to say government across the board, and clearly the culture change promised by the Chief Minister following the Dr. Ranson case has gone out of the window. Trust, transparency, Rome is burning. And what do you think about this one from Ali, who says if 2 months worth of procedures, treatments, whatever is moved to next year, that doesn't mean the problem is solved, because next financial year has 14 months worth of treatments instead of 12. This is not the solution. The problem is not of Manx Care's making, it's 100% this government's continued underfunding. Ali says, I feel sorry for Theresa Cope. Her silence when asked if the Minister, Claire Christian, knew about the cut spoke volumes. This government is the worst ever. Certainly Theresa Cope not speedy in her answer to Siobhán's question.
The Health Minister gets up in Tynwald last week and says, we're not aware of any cuts. Do you agree that she was not aware of any cuts, or was she briefed on the cuts?
I think the plans weren't finalised.
So she knew of some cuts though?
We always share the plans. The ability for those plans to be agreed and signed off was yet to be absolutely nailed.
The Chief Minister has acknowledged there has been a communication failure between government and the Manx public in relation to health cuts. Manx Care is no longer sending patients to UK hospitals for treatment which is non-urgent in a bid to save money. The cost-cutting measure, which will be in place until the end of March, was revealed this week after an MHK leaked an embargoed media release which had been recalled by the health body.
The Health Minister says she's incredibly sorry for the miscommunication surrounding a leaked document that outlined a series of cuts Manx Care had planned to implement. Government has acknowledged that clearly needs to be a rethink on how policies and their impacts are communicated to the public. Further funding has now been secured from Treasury, which Manx Care says will allow some planned cuts to be scaled back, though not all. Despite telling Tynwald that no services are under threat while being aware of the proposed cuts, Claire Christian maintains that she did not break the government code.
I felt I was answering in the possibility of strike action of that causing cuts, and that was not the case.
Just so we can categorically clear it up, do you deny that you misled Parliament then?
I did not mislead Parliament.
News review of 2025.
Hello, it's me, Lewis Capaldi here.
How long till it feels like the wound's finally starting to heal?
Anoncan MHK says she has concerns about whether proposed changes to the island's pension triple lock comply with the Equality Act. Julie Edge is set to bring a motion to the House of Keys next week in a bid to separate the proposed changes from the rest of the budget process. On Budget Day, politicians vote for the entirety of the document rather than individual elements. But Ms Edge told Manx Radio more debate is needed by politicians over what she feels could amount to age discrimination.
The way our budget process is, it's fait accompli. You either vote for it or you don't. And if this taking away the triple lock is part of that, there's no options really for members. And if you look at the imbalance of the voting now since the Chief Minister's got his 10th Minister, it's significant important, and I think it deserves proper policy debate by members of the House of Keys.
Starting with some breaking news regarding proposed changes to the Manx state pension. The Isle of Man Treasury is now set to suggest a 4.1% increase to both the basic retirement pension and Manx state pension in next week's budget, aligning with the UK's triple lock policy. The decision follows a debate in the House of Keys on the future uprating of the Manx state pension, where MHKs called for greater public consultation on changes aimed at ensuring the long-term sustainability of the National Insurance Fund. Siobhán Fletcher has the latest details for us now.
Treasury Minister Alex Allinson said more time was needed to build consensus on securing the fund and protecting pensions. He confirmed plans to work with Tynwald members to launch a public consultation in the coming months. The debate was prompted by two reports warning that without intervention, the National Insurance Fund could be depleted by 2047. A further motion on the future of the scheme is set to be brought before Tynwald in April.
The Treasury Minister will be joining us live on Manx Radio's breakfast programme in 10 minutes' time to discuss the changes.
This isn't really a U-turn. I know politicians will say that. We had the exceptional incident this week of a debate about the budget before the budget debate, where the vast majority of members said pause. They said, look, we know what you're trying to do. You're trying to secure the long-term sustainability of the NI fund, but we want more information, we want more modelling, we want more consultation, we want more listening, we want more understanding. And I respect that, and I respect the will of the elected House of Keys.
Tynwald has approved the budget for the next financial year.
All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, please say no.
No.
Treasury Minister Alex Allinson won the backing of the court for his Pink Book, which sets out how the island's money will be spent during 2025 to 2026. 16 members of the House of Keys voted for the budget, with 8 voting against. All 8 members of the Legislative Council voted in favour.
This year's budget will make a difference to people on the Isle of Man and increase the money working families have in their pockets. That's the view of the Chief Minister, who says the financial plan for the year ahead shows how committed government is to helping people navigate economic uncertainty. From April, the higher rate of income tax will reduce from 22% to 21%. The personal allowance will also go up. Alfred Cannon says this should be welcomed.
In the next year, we will give our people every opportunity to succeed. Putting money back in people's pockets has been what the Treasury Minister promised and what he has delivered. The majority of people, particularly our working families, will be better off next year. And for some, that relief will be hugely welcomed.
Meanwhile, the Health Minister insists we won't see further cuts within Manx Care this year, but rather a change in the way services are provided. The body has been allocated £357.5 million, with a £14 million contingency pot also available. Tynwald members are due to have a general debate next month on Manx Care's operating plan and mandate. Claire Christian told Manx Radio the body won't be bringing forward any new service developments unless it gets funding first.
But what I can just give you as an overview of that is so that we're going to be driving productivity and efficiency to seek and maintain the 24-25 levels of elective activity, which I think is really important to reassure people. We're going to be redirecting budget towards care in the community, Phil, and that for me is something that's been really important since I've been in post.
News review of 2025.
Hey, I'm Justin Bieber.
The former Health Minister says the mandate to Manx Care and the operating plan for 2025 to 26 evidence a forthcoming horrific reduction in service level. Both documents are due to be laid before Tynwald later this month. Ramsey MHK Laurie Hooper has branded the plans a clearly stated intention to cut NHS services and push people towards private options. He says the mandate amounts to the largest assault on NHS care the island has ever seen.
And what makes it even worse, to pile on top of all this, is the government have said that we're going to have a discussion on this in March Tynwald. What they've done is they've tabled it for a general debate, not a vote. They're not coming forward and saying, we think this is the right thing for the island and we need you to approve it. What they're saying is, we're doing it and we're going to let you talk about it. They don't even have the confidence to stand up in public and tell people we are cutting your health services and we think it's the right thing to do.
Manx patients will see an increase in availability of GP and dental appointments over the course of the next year. That's the pledge from the chair of Manx Care, who says the expectation is that access into primary care will improve under its new operating plan. Meanwhile, an MHK has blamed a lack of communication for a void of uncertainty and escalation of concerns over cancer screening on the Isle of Man. Albury, Castletown and Maloo MHK Tim Glover believes information contained in the Manx Care mandate was poorly written and has been handled in a cowardly way. It suggested decreasing routine screening for breast and cervical cancer. The Department of Health and Social Care and Public Health have denied this is something that will be implemented. The Isle of Man could lose its contract with the Great North Air Ambulance Service at the end of this month if funding is not agreed between the charity and Manx Care. The body's operating plan reveals that due to the additional costs of insurance and safety equipment required for travelling over water, £250,000 is required each year to maintain the relationship. However, that funding hasn't been agreed for the upcoming financial year. Chief Executive Joe Garcia told Manx Radio the running costs to link the island with Northern England cannot be absorbed by the charity.
The issue at hand is this kit needs to be maintained constantly. There are 2 calendar dates this year where we need to make a decision as to whether we invest in the continued maintenance of some of this kit or not. And as soon as we don't, we lose that ability to fly over water.
I was a ghost, I was alone.
A planned protest against proposals to reduce the frequency of breast cancer screenings on the island has been cancelled. It's after government confirmed any changes would be properly communicated and consulted on, following concerns raised by the wording of Manx Care's mandate. 3 charities, Breast Cancer Now, Manx Breast Cancer Support Group and Isle of Man Breast Care, had been planning to peacefully protest outside this month's sitting of Tynwald on Tuesday. However, Julie Stokes from the Manx Breast Cancer Support Group says there's no longer a need to do so.
We met yesterday with Health Minister Claire Christian and Cabinet Office Minister David Ashford, and we're really pleased to say that we now have a written assurance from them both that no changes will be made to the current 2-yearly screening programme.
Manx Care and the Great North Air Ambulance Service have agreed a new contract. It'll see its services continue on the Isle of Man for a further 12 months, as Sean Cowper reports.
Manx Care says it's now found a solution to sustain this vital partnership, which will see the healthcare provider fund the service on a per-mission costing. It will come into effect for a year from April. The Health and Social Care Minister says there needs to be a better connection between what the Manx public wants and how healthcare is provided on the Isle of Man. Claire Christian is calling for a Tynwald committee to be formed to review the relationship between her department and Manx Care. A motion will be brought to the island's Parliament later this month. The potential committee needs to review who does what and find any areas of duplication.
I'm politically responsible and answering questions currently in either the House of Keys or Tynwald. And at the moment, apart from the board-to-board meetings, the structure, the way that it's set up at the moment, or has been in the past, it's very much their arm's length. This is their decisions, and they are their decisions, but we need to have more connection between a sort of a political conversation for them to understand what really do the Manx public want.
The Steam Packet has announced it's relaxing its adult-to-child ratio for group bookings on its vessels. It's after controversial changes to its policies were implemented last year.
The Chief Minister has described failed plans to extract natural gas from the island's seabed as 6 years of wasted energy. Alfred Cannon says he's disappointed that Kroger didn't get to the stage of carrying out a 3D seismic survey and drilling an appraisal well. The company's licence to do the work has now expired. It claims government put 3 impossible roadblocks in the way.
News review of 2025.
Hi, I'm Sabrina Carpenter.
Government wants your views on proposals to implement a 20 mile per hour speed limit in residential areas across the island. It's been put forward by the Department of Infrastructure in line with the Tynwald commitment from 2023. No new traffic calming measures will be implemented under the initiative, but there will be installation of new signage to raise public awareness.
The Department of Infrastructure has promised to take time to consider all views submitted on plans to implement 20 mile per hour zones across the island. It's accepting feedback on the proposals until the end of the day today. The limit won't be enforced but will be implemented in all residential areas of the island. But Middle MHK Stu Peters says the move is unnecessary.
I am slightly concerned about the rationale behind it. I'd assumed that it was to improve road safety and stop pedestrian accidents. Apparently, according to the Minister, that's not what it is at all. It's about improving the quality of life for people who live in residential areas. Well, you can't even do 20 miles an hour in most residential areas, so I think it's a bit of a sledgehammer to crack a nut, to be honest.
The Infrastructure Minister says she regrets how plans to implement 20 miles per hour speed limits in the island's towns and villages have been communicated. Earlier this week, Dr. Michelle Haywood confirmed there would be opportunities for feedback on the proposals following backlash from the public. The extra consultations will give people a chance to have their say on which roads should or shouldn't be included in the scheme. Dr. Haywood was asked if she thought the changes had been communicated well enough.
If I'm brutally honest, no, I don't. I think we should have started talking about it before we published the traffic order, but it's one of those routine things. It's a delegated power that I hand over within the department for people to sign off traffic orders, and it just went through the system, and that is unfortunate. I do regret that because it's allowed a lot of misinformation and disinformation to take hold.
And Onchan MHK has described the proposed rollout of 20 mile per hour zones in residential areas as a political train crash. It comes as Infrastructure Minister Michelle Haywood presented an implementation plan to Tynwald.
News review of 2025.
The Isle of Man Constabulary's confirmed it's dealing with a serious incident in Ramsey. The response has involved a number of officers and the scene is now under police cordon.
A murder investigation is underway after a local person died following a serious incident in Ramsey, the Isle of Man Constabulary has confirmed. Police officers attended an incident in the area of Close Dreen at 3:38 p.m. yesterday.
Police say a 14-year-old boy died as a result of a serious incident in Ramsey on Thursday, and a juvenile is in custody in relation to an ongoing murder investigation.
In breaking news, police have confirmed in the last few minutes that a male juvenile has been charged with murder after a 14-year-old boy died in Ramsey last week. Due to the age of the individual, the identity of the boy who's been charged can't be released. He'll appear before the next available court.
A range of support measures are to be made available for young people and staff as they return to school on Monday morning. The Department of Education, Sport and Culture says it will be a difficult time for many following the death of Christopher McBurney in Ramsey last week. Siobhán Fletcher reports.
All schools are said to have procedures in place to support student well-being, and some secondary schools will have additional support measures in place. Education Minister Daphne Kane has also offered her reassurances to people across the island that they need not struggle alone. You are listening to the news review of 2025 right here on Manx Radio. We're going to take a little pause here and jump into the sport review of 2025 with our sports editor Rob Pritchard, who's got this summary of the TT fortnight this year. Well, what was run of it anyway.
Hello, good morning and welcome from the grandstand in Douglas. I'm Dave Moore and it gives me great delight to say that this year's Isle of Man TT races are officially underway.
The return of the Isle of Man TT races for 2025 at the end of May look to promise yet another 2 weeks of thrilling road racing action on the hallowed tarmac of the Snaefell mountain course. However, Mother Nature wasn't playing ball right from the start.
We would have had a different schedule for today, but rain is supposedly on its way, and that's why they're only going to get one lap.
And that kind of set the tone, really.
The news is not great, unfortunately. Gary Thompson, the clerk of the course, has just been on the PA to announce that more showers have come into the west of the island. As a result, the roads are damp or wet at Sarah's Cottage, Lamb Fell and Cronkervoddy, so they are not going to be able to race this afternoon on the TT course. No racing this afternoon.
We are at the greatest motorsport event in the world. We are doing what we can to get the event on in the most difficult of circumstances.
Riders, organisers and spectators alike played a continuous game of cat and mouse with the conditions over the TT fortnight this year. Despite all those challenges, we saw new memories made on the mountain course. Having become the most successful rider of all time at the event a year ago, Michael Dunlop surpassed 30 TT victories in 2025, further etching his name into TT immortality by winning both Supersport and both Super Twin races.
Absolutely pinned the Milwaukee Ducati. My thunder, it's 30. 30 TT wins for Michael Dunlop.
Milwaukee guys really wanted to, they made an effort with the Ducati and really wanted me to win around the TT, and they took all faith in me to have a go, and between them and Quattro and Cheshire Bones we and the boys, we built a lovely wee bike.
And in the sidecars, Manx brothers Ryan and Callum Crowe were the undisputed three-wheel champions, not only taking 2 victories, but during the first race setting an astonishing new sidecar TT lap record.
All eyes on the timing screen to see what they have managed to do on 37.73 miles. Here they come. Victory for the Crows. And a sensational new lap record, 121.021 miles per hour. Wow.
That was some ride, that, by Ryan. It's been a long week. It's been a very long week, but very well done with Gary Thompson. I just want to say a massive thank you to all my team.
Honestly, Chris, I didn't intend it. I didn't think that would come. It's that windy out there. But yeah, it was just mint the whole way around. It was lovely. Couldn't knock it at all.
And as the 2 weeks reached its finale, the centrepiece senior race beckoned on Saturday the 6th of June. However,
it's certainly not ideal. It's drier than I expected, if I'm honest, but still damp in sections. But the wind is pretty bad, actually. That's probably my biggest concern.
I ain't comfortable in that, and ideally to have fun. That's no fun.
The weather reared its head again ahead of the biggest race of the meeting, and Mother Nature would have the final say, as conditions meant clerk of the course Gary Thompson had to make this kind of announcement for only the second time in the event's 118-year history.
The general feeling is that it is unsuitable for racing tonight. Bearing in mind rider safety, I'm afraid that the senior race for 2025 is cancelled.
And so, for only the second time since the event started in 1907, with the exception of world wars, foot and mouth disease in 2001 and the COVID pandemic in 2020 and 2021, the senior race was cancelled.
We'll leave Rob there, but you can listen back to the sport review of 2025 for free right now, wherever you get your podcasts.
The news review of 2025.
I saw your green hair, beauty mark next to your mouth there on the subway.
A new bus route, including a service to Craignish, will operate year-round, 7 days a week. The 8S service will connect Peel and Foxdale with the south of the island, including the Sound, via Craignish. It's hoped the service will be up and running next month, subject to approval from the Road Transport Licensing Committee. Infrastructure Minister Michelle Haywood says the move follows consultation with residents across the island.
Particularly like to thank Krista and the other people around the Craignish bus campaign for all the work they've done in highlighting the demand down there.
The assisted dying bill is set to move forward after the Legislative Council voted to approve the amendments made by the House of Keys.
Campaign groups on the Isle of Man say they're relieved assisted dying proposals have got this far. Earlier this week, the island became the first place in the British Isles to approve the legislation. Its next step is getting royal assent before it can be passed into law. Chair of the Isle of Man branch, Vicky Christian, says it all comes down to having the option to choose.
In spite of the opposition which we know exists, this is purely a matter of choice for the person who is terminally ill. It's not going to be forced on anybody at all. It is just the choice, a choice of where to die. and at what time to die. And I think that's really important to acknowledge.
People across the Isle of Man headed to the polls this week to vote in the local authority general election. The results have seen serving commissioners shown the door and some familiar faces returning to the political fray. In Castletown, Chairman Beth Cannon and Commissioner stalwart Colin Leather failed to be returned to office. But gaining a seat at the table was former Chief Minister Tony Brown, who told Manx Radio he hopes to bridge the gap between the local authority and government.
And one of the things that I think is causing concern is there seems to be a lack of understanding by people who are located in Douglas, in offices in Douglas, actually what we're about. And we don't just want to all be the same. We have our own character, our own nature. And that is actually what the Island benefits from, because every area is slightly different.
It's been confirmed that a Peel man who spent several years helping to clear unexploded weapons in Ukraine has been killed. Christopher Garrett, an armed forces veteran, had been working with the humanitarian charity Prevail Together, of which he was chairman. Beth Espy reports.
The charity issued a statement this morning saying Mr. Garrett had been severely injured alongside the charity's founder and other members in an incident yesterday in a city in eastern Ukraine. In a statement since, Prevail board member Sean Pinner, a fellow armed forces veteran, says 2 of the 3 critically injured individuals have sadly passed away, and I can confirm that Chris was among those who died. Mr. Pinner says our thoughts and prayers are with all the families affected. We deeply appreciate all the support during this difficult time. Prevail will share further updates, he says, as soon as we coordinate with the investigation teams over the next 48 hours.
Events are taking place across the island today to commemorate 80 years since Victory in Europe Day. It marks the end of the Nazi regime in Germany after its official surrender. While the Second World War didn't officially end until the August, it was a significant milestone. Alan lives in Ramsey and's been reflecting on his memories of VE Day.
I went to school and they said the Germans have surrendered, this is going to be called VE Day, and you can all go home, you got the rest of the week off. Hooray. And I remember that evening they built the most enormous bonfire. And I always remember a chap, he came out halfway through with a kilt on and did a Highland fling in front of the bonfire. And then after that was it, it was time to go home and forget about it, yeah.
News review of 2025.
The Isle of Man Constabulary are asking that members of the public refrain from speculation following the conclusion of an appeal for help finding a high-risk missing person today. In the last few moments, we've had an update from the police. Lewis Foster joins me live in the studio now. Faster my Lewis.
Faster my Siobhán, yes. This just in from Superintendent John Phillips. Earlier this evening, police responded promptly to a serious incident in the Port Cornay area in the north of the island. An investigation has been launched by the Isle of Man Constabulary after a person was seriously injured. Armed officers detained a person nearby in connection with the incident. There will be a police presence in the area for some time while officers conduct their inquiries, and members of the public are asked to avoid the area.
Concerns have been raised about how the police kept the public informed about an unfolding situation in which a person was left badly injured on a beach. The serious incident at Cornay on Monday followed earlier appeals by the Isle of Man Constabulary about a man missing from home. A meeting was held at Doonchurch Hall for concerned residents last night. Lewis Foster has this report from BBC Isle of Man.
Inspector Wendy Barker said there was no suggestion of a danger to the public when a high-risk missing person inquiry was launched at the weekend, but that had changed to something else on Monday afternoon. Questioning why the possible threat had not been communicated to residents sooner, one said, "I think everybody just feels a bit let down in general, that we weren't better informed." Police previously said they had been called to a report of a serious incident on the beach in Maccled on Monday afternoon. Armed officers were also called to a second alleged assault nearby, where they arrested a man.
News review of 2025.
Talk to me, talk to me. Talk to me, talk to me. Looks like we're making up for lost time.
An MLC says you don't know what you've got until it's gone as the Legislative Council prepares to decide the future of the Bishop's vote. A report setting out a series of conclusions includes a warning from the Church of England that it may review whether the Isle of Man should continue to have its own diocese if the change is approved. The bishop's position in Tynwald dates back more than 4 centuries, and the current post holder hopes she will continue to be accountable in political sittings. MLC Paul Crane questions whether politicians necessarily understand the implications of such a move.
It would be no surprise to find that some of the representatives do not appreciate that history. It has been extraordinary.
At the end of today's agenda, members are set to discuss once again the bishop's vote. With the latest, here's John Moss.
The Legco amendment from Gary Clewett argues that when, which is now likely, this contentious bill finishes its passage, any implementation should be in 5 years or when the present bishop leaves, whichever is sooner. MHK Chris Thomas argues that a specific commencement date is needed.
There is no commencement provision. It will actually have to be the UK royal assent provision that decides when this comes into force at the moment.
Talk to me, be the man that I need, baby. Talk to me, be the man.
The Isle of Man's minimum wage will increase next year following Tynwald approval. From the 1st of April, the hourly rate will rise from £12.25 to £13.46. The move comes in spite of concerns regarding the impact on businesses. However, the Enterprise Minister says the timing of the approval will give them certainty and time to prepare. An increase in the youth rate from £9.55 to £10.76 has also been approved.
The Education Minister says her department is listening to feedback and actively tweaking menus for school meals. It says figures show a decline in the uptake since a new menu was introduced in September, which cut the amount of ultra-processed foods, increased the amount of Manx produce and swapped desserts for fruit and milk.
I'm limited. I'm limited. And just look at you. You can do all I couldn't do, Glinda.
And finally.
And finally.
And finally.
And finally. And finally.
And the Sir Mark Cavendish Raceway has officially opened at the National Sports Centre. Earlier today, the Manx Missile himself unveiled the circuit in front of learners from the island's schools, politicians and onlookers. Speaking on the podium after setting the track's fastest lap of 1 minute 8 seconds, Mark Cavendish urged them to follow their dreams, adding he'd hope to one day in the future be asking them for their autograph at the Tour de France. He described the event as a massive honour for him and says that this is the best place in the world.
Here's the best place in the world for me to come because I'm still kind of just Mark. This is a massive honour, that I've got an island behind me, but it's also a privilege that I have a community behind me and I can still just be Mark here, and that's a refreshing change.
A teenager from the Isle of Man has described scooping 3 awards at Crufts as an absolute dream come true. Kayla Honey won 3 classes with 7-year-old Italian hunting dog Oscar at the NEC in Birmingham.
Island-born star Samantha Barks has been crowned the winner of ITV's The Masked Singer. The actor and singer was unveiled as pufferfish during the finale to the 2025 series last night.
And a yellow mongoose that escaped from Currach's Wildlife Park has been recaptured and returned to the park. The animal, nicknamed Jeff, disappeared from the sanctuary in Ballaugh last week and was caught over 15 miles away in the grounds of Heron and Brewley Brewery. Officials there say he's safe and well.
Callum Gaughan has been crowned winner of the 2025 Parish Walk. He completed the 85-mile challenge in 15 hours, 49 minutes and 49 seconds, crossing the finish line on Douglas Promenade last night. Speaking to Manx Radio at the finish, Gaughan says he hopes his victory can inspire others to take on big challenges.
The idea of winning it, me personally, is nice, but I would like it to sort of help hopefully inspire somebody else, because I only started race walking in January 23. And I truly believe that you can achieve anything if you're willing to put the work in.
Meanwhile, Samantha Bowden put in a strong performance to win the women's race. She crossed the line in 16 hours, 35 minutes and 35 seconds to also claim joint second overall with second male finisher Tristan Shields. It's now the third time Bowden's emerged victorious in the female event, having also taken top spot in 2021 and 2022. Speaking to Manx Radio, she said to win again was the icing on the cake of what was also a personal best display.
It wasn't quite what I expected. I only thought coming along the prom that I'd get the PB, but another first lady and second overall, that you can't ask for much more.
The former family library in Douglas is set to reopen this weekend in a new form. Now called the Manx Family Centre, it will be run by the Manx Family Community Association, an independent charity, and officially opens on Saturday.
And a dog who spent 5 weeks in Archalgan Plantation has finally been brought home. Elvis, the German Shepherd Cross, slipped his lead in the area last month. Multiple searches of the site have been carried out since, with the help of DEFA, who've been clearing storm-damaged trees there. Elvis's family has thanked everyone who helped unite him with his owner.
The Year of the Manx Language 2026 has been officially launched with an event held in Douglas last night. Blaine Nagilga is a year-long programme featuring concerts, events, workshops, educational projects and cultural experiences across the island and internationally.
Bushies has been celebrating 40 years since its first ale began being brewed on the island. The brewery started in the basement of Zhivago's bar on Victoria Street in Douglas to become a household name on the island today. Now, under new ownership, there are plans to move the brewery from Braddon to Castletown, along with the creation of a restaurant and visitors centre.
And Rebecca House Children's Hospice has received a festive boost courtesy of over 300 Santas on bikes. This year's charity ride, held at the weekend, was the most successful ever, raising almost £79,000 for the cause.
With as many as 200 million records sold worldwide, the sole surviving BG has been reflecting on his childhood on the Isle of Man. Barry Gibbs says Manx culture left a lasting impression, especially its rich folklore of fairies and superstitions. He told Manx Radio he has fond memories of his time here.
What I took with me was an extreme belief in the supernatural, an extreme belief in mythical people, mythical creatures. And I left the island with those feelings, because, you might not have seen a fairy, but they were there. But I never went across that bridge without saying hello.
Who can say if I've been changed for the better?
Well, that's it. That's the news review of 2025 for you. Everything we could fit into an hour, at least. If you missed any of today's programme and want to catch up, then it is available for free now wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for joining us for the last hour, and from everyone in the newsroom at Manx Radio, we hope you had a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
I have been changed for good.
Thank you for making it to the end of the Manx Radio newscast. You are obviously someone with exquisite taste. May I politely suggest you might want to subscribe to this and a wide range of Manx Radio podcasts at your favourite podcast provider, so our best bits will magically appear on your smartphone. Thank you.